My basement-dwelling brother left our grandfather to die on his floor while he went to a gaming convention for 4 days. When I got him arrested using power of attorney documents, he stole my mail for 3 months and destroyed my credit with $18,000 in fake debt, so I forwarded his location to the dangerous people. He owed gambling money too. My brother Pao hasn't left our parents' basement since he flunked out of high school, except for his GameStop shifts that he skips half the time to play video games. Within a week of returning, he'd claimed the entire basement as his streaming studio, where he'd sit in his crusty boxers from noon to 4 a.m. with his gaming chair, while he screamed racial slurs at teenagers. He'd bang on the ceiling when Mom's footsteps were too loud during his raids, and text her from downstairs to bring him more Hot Pockets, because walking up 14 steps would ruin his kill streak. The entitlement started small, but multiplied faster than his Reddit karma. First, it was the chore list he made for me at family dinners that detailed why I should clean his basement. When I started taking care of Grandpa every morning before my shifts, he called the family meeting about how unfair it was that I got to hogging all the inheritance. Meanwhile, he was building his Twitch empire to his 11 subscribers. On Grandpa's 85th birthday, I mentioned his $3,200 monthly railroad pension during cake, but Pao's eyes locked onto that number like a rare achievement unlocked. Within 3 days, he'd convinced our parents that Grandpa needed masculine energy in his care, and I was too hysterical and emotional to handle money properly. When I showed them Grandpa's medication schedule I'd maintained for 2 years, Pao said I'd been stealing pills to sell at the hospital. Dad just nodded, while Mom whispered that maybe this responsibility would finally help Pao grow up. The breaking point came one day during my lunch break, because that's when I found Grandpa unconscious on Pao's basement floor. He was lying in his own waste, dehydrated, with bed sores forming, while Pao had been at a gaming convention for 4 days straight. Grandpa's pills were scattered everywhere because Pao had been using the med organizer as a chip bowl, and the only food in reach was an open bag of Doritos and flat Mountain Dew. When I called 911, Pao texted me 47 times calling me a jealous beach who was trying to steal his caregiving career. Then our parents appeared at the hospital, and I waited for them to finally see the truth, but instead Mom started crying about how I was sabotaging Pao's first real job. Dad chimed in and accused me of elder abuse for taking Grandpa without Pao's permission. When I begged them to look at Grandpa's condition, Mom just shook her head and said I'd never understand because I didn't have children. Pao said the words that changed everything. If you can't support your family's success, then you're not welcome in this family. Stay away from my patient. Dad's firm handshake with Pao felt like a knife as they banned me from both Grandpa's room and their house, until I could apologize for my jealousy. After sobbing in my car for an hour in the hospital parking lot, I remembered the lockbox Grandpa had given me years ago. Between his military medals and old photos, I found papers that made my hands tremble. A medical power of attorney from 2019. Signed after Pao stole and crashed Grandpa's Buick during a shiny Pokemon emergency, the document gave me full medical and financial control over Grandpa's care, witnessed by his lawyer and notarized properly. I spent 3 days gathering evidence of Pao's neglect and financial abuse, all while planning everything for the following Friday when Pao would be at TwitchCon trying to network with real streamers. The police and adult protective services arrived at 2 p.m. while Pao was live streaming to his 12 viewers, ranting about fake gamer girls ruining the industry. His chat watched in real time as officers asked about the $47,000 in pension money spent on gaming equipment, cryptocurrency, and something called waifu collectibles. I presented the power of attorney documents while paramedics prepared to transport Grandpa to the Veterans Care Center I'd selected. Pao barricaded himself in his gaming chair, screaming that this was targeted harassment of gamers and probably illegal discrimination. He called me the C word so many times that the officers added verbal assault to his charges. The best part was when they cataloged his setup as evidence, and he cried actual tears when they unplugged his RGB keyboard. 6 months later, Pao's living on Mom and Dad's couch because his basement is still sealed as evidence. I thought I'd won, until my card declined buying chips. Every card was declined. My phone exploded with notices. Eviction, repo, collections. 3 months of bills I'd never seen. My phone rang. "Hey sis," Pao's voice oozed. "Funny how karma works." I hung up and immediately dialed my bank with shaking fingers. The automated system put me on hold for 12 minutes, while cheerful music mocked my panic. When the representative finally answered, her voice turned serious after pulling up my account. "Ma'am, I'm showing $18,000 in collections across multiple accounts. These debts have been accumulating for approximately 3 months. My phone buzzed with incoming texts. Pao's messages filled the screen. Laughing emojis, crying laughing emojis, and one that just said "gotten." I threw on yesterday's clothes and raced to my parents' house, my mind spinning through every possible explanation. The 15-minute drive felt like hours. When I pulled into their driveway, I saw movement in the upstairs window. Pao's face appeared, holding up his phone. I pounded on the front door, my fist making the decorative wreath bounce. Through the frosted glass, I could see shapes moving inside, but nobody approaching. I knocked harder. "I need my mail. Open up." The curtain in the living room window shifted. Pao stood there, filming me with his phone, mouthing something I couldn't hear through the glass. He held up a piece of paper. Harassment, written in black marker. Finally, Mom opened the door but kept the chain lock engaged. Her eyes were red-rimmed and she wouldn't meet my gaze. "You need to leave," she said quietly. "Mom, I need my mail. 3 months of bills are missing. My credit is destroyed." She shook her head slowly. Pao explained everything. How you stole the house that should have been his. How you manipulated Grandpa when he was vulnerable. The words hit like physical blows. Behind her, I could see Dad hovering in the hallway, arms crossed. "That's not true. You know that's not—" "Just go," Mom said, already closing the door. "Stop harassing your brother." I stood on their porch, trembling with rage and disbelief. Movement from next door caught my eye. Mrs. Chen, their elderly neighbor, was watering her roses and watching the scene with concern. She beckoned me over to the fence. "I see your brother at your mailbox," she said in her soft accent. Every day at 3 p.m. when the mail comes. He takes everything. My stomach dropped. How long has this been happening? Maybe 2-3 months. I thought maybe you asked him to collect it. I thanked her and stumbled back to my car, my phone already ringing. My supervisor's name flashed on the screen. We need to talk, she said without preamble. HR received garnishment paperwork for your wages. Why didn't you tell us about your financial situation? I never received any garnishment papers. When were they sent? 6 weeks ago. This is serious. It could affect your employment. After promising to sort it out immediately, I drove to my apartment complex office. The property manager, a no-nonsense woman named Barb, pulled up my file on her computer. Someone filed change of address forms 2.5 months ago, she said, turning the monitor so I could see. Look, here's your signature. It wasn't my signature. Close, but the loops were wrong. The slant too aggressive. That's forged. I never signed this. Barb leaned back in her chair. You'll need to file a police report. This is mail fraud. Back in my apartment, I opened my laptop and searched for Pow's Twitch channel. His most recent streams were still archived. I clicked through them until I found one from last week. 20 minutes in, he started ranting to his viewers. So get this, chat. Sometimes karma takes too long, so you gotta help it along. My sister thought she was so smart, stealing our grandpa. Well, guess who's teaching her about consequences? He laughed, that same cruel sound from our phone call. Let's just say she's about to learn what it's like to lose everything, and the best part, she has no idea it's happening. I screen recorded the entire confession, my hands shaking as I saved multiple copies. But when I refreshed the page an hour later, the VOD was gone. He'd deleted it. The next day I drove to the GameStop where Pow worked. I needed to confront him face to face to make him understand the destruction he was causing. But when I walked in, his coworker Marcus looked uncomfortable. He's in the back, Marcus said quietly. But just so you know, he's been telling everyone you're stalking him. Showed us screenshots of you harassing him. What screenshots? Marcus glanced around nervously. Messages where you're threatening him? I don't know. It seemed weird to me. I left without seeing Pow. That evening Jake called me. My boyfriend of 2 years sounded strange, distant. Your brother sent me some concerning messages, he said. Screenshots of texts where you sound unhinged. What texts? He forwarded them to me. They were my messages, but edited. Sentences spliced together to make me sound unstable, threatening. Where I'd written, I can't believe he's doing this, Pow had somehow made it read, I can't wait to destroy him. Jake, these are edited. You know me. Would I write like this? I don't know what to think anymore. After we hung up, my best friend Jenna texted me. Hey, weird question. Your brother DM'd me on Instagram asking about your work schedule. Said he wanted to surprise you with something nice. I didn't respond, but thought you should know. I spent the rest of the night documenting everything. The timeline was clear. Pow had been planning this for months. Studying my routines, intercepting my mail, building his narrative. The next morning, I parked down the street from my apartment at 2:45 p.m. Mrs. Chen was right. At exactly 3 p.m., Pow's hit-up Honda pulled up to the mailboxes. He had a key. I started recording with my phone as he opened my box, stuffed everything into a bag, and started walking back to his car. When I stepped out to confront him, he spotted me immediately and ran. I followed him back to our parents' house, staying far enough back that he wouldn't panic. Through the window, I could hear him on Discord with his gaming friends. Yeah, she's getting desperate now. Wait till she finds out about the IRS report I'm filing. Gonna claim she's been evading taxes on Grandpa's money. My blood ran cold. This was escalating beyond anything I'd imagined. Over the next week, the attacks intensified. Co-workers mentioned getting strange calls asking about my substance problem. My supervisor had to field 3 anonymous complaints about my financial crimes affecting workplace safety. Then I noticed a pattern. Every time Grandpa's pension deposited on the first of the month, Pow's harassment ramped up. He was still trying to access that money. That's when Megan reached out. You don't know me, her Facebook message began. But I dated your brother 3 years ago. I saw your post in the community group about mail theft. He did the exact same thing to me when I broke up with him. We met for coffee. Megan was a grad student now, but she looked tired recounting her story. He forged documents, intercepted my mail, called my work, destroyed my credit. It took 2 years to recover. I have screenshots of him bragging about it if you need them. Finally, some validation that I wasn't crazy. I managed to catch our regular mailman, Tony, on his route. So Pow's been playing mailman at 3 p.m. every day, like it's his new side quest. And of course his sweet Mrs. Chen catches him red-handed. He's some kind of discount villain with basic photo editing skills. Meanwhile, he's literally confessing his whole evil plan on Twitch to 12 viewers and his mom's cat. When I explained the situation, his face darkened. I wondered why someone filed a change of address, then kept showing up anyway. Yeah, I can confirm the unauthorized change. That's a federal crime. But Pow must have been watching. Within 2 days, Tony was transferred to a different route. His replacement wouldn't talk to me. The breakthrough came at Sunday dinner. I'd been banned for weeks, but Dad texted saying Mom wanted to try reconciliation. When I arrived, Pow was there, smirking from his seat. Halfway through dinner, Dad mentioned his credit card statement. There's a charge at your apartment complex for the office. Why would that be there? Pow's fork paused midway to his mouth. Probably fraud. You should contest it. But it's from 2 months ago, right when Dad trailed off, looking between us. Mom changed the subject, but I saw doubt creep into Dad's eyes for the first time. The next morning, Pow started telling our extended family I was bipolar and off my medication. My cousin Alexis called me confused after he messaged her claiming I needed an intervention. The medical lies spread through our family group chat faster than wildfire, isolating me from relatives who've always been supportive. I recognized this pattern immediately. It was exactly how Pow had treated Grandpa before taking over his care. First, he'd manufactured helplessness by hiding Grandpa's glasses and walker. Then he'd swooped in as the savior, telling everyone how confused and dependent Grandpa had become. The same gaslighting playbook, just with a different target. My phone rang while I was processing this realization. The director of Grandpa's care facility sounded concerned. Pow had shown up last week with forged power of attorney documents, trying to remove Grandpa from their care. The staff had turned him away, but he'd been aggressive, demanding to see financial records. I drove straight to the facility with photos of Pal on my phone, warning every staff member about his manipulation tactics. They increased security protocols and added his picture to their watch list. The head nurse mentioned she'd seen similar situations before, family members trying to access elderly relatives' funds through deception. That evening, I started documenting every interaction in a shared Google Drive folder, creating timestamps and backing up evidence. The pattern was undeniable when laid out chronologically. Every attack coincided with financial pressure points. Every lie built on the previous one. The credit repair company I consulted delivered crushing news. Legal action would take years to resolve. They suggested building evidence for a dispute process instead, but warned it would be an uphill battle without concrete proof of fraud. My savings were draining fast between the consultation fees and daily expenses. Megan and I met again at a quiet diner. She pulled out her laptop, showing me screenshots from 3 years ago. Pal's messages to her friends, bragging about destroying her credit as revenge for their breakup. The same language, the same tactics, the same cruelty. We bonded over our shared trauma, and she taught me his manipulation playbook, how he'd study routines, exploit weaknesses, and preemptively position himself as the victim. Late one night, I couldn't sleep and decided to do reconnaissance. I parked near my apartment complex and waited. Around 2 a.m., I saw Pal's Honda creep into the parking lot. He got out and walked toward the mailbox area, checking over his shoulder constantly. I documented everything with my phone, though the darkness made clear footage impossible. A former GameStop employee reached out through Megan. Pal had been fired from a previous job for stealing customer information. Credit card numbers, addresses, phone numbers. The manager had suspected him, but couldn't prove it until inventory discrepancies exposed his scheme. This pattern went back years. My parents invited me to another family dinner, claiming they wanted to clear the air. I arrived to find an ambush. Pal, my parents, and my aunt and uncle all waiting. They took turns expressing concern about my mental state, my obsession with Pal, my inability to take responsibility. I stayed calm, letting them talk, noting how Pal's story kept changing. Mom noticed it too, her eyes narrowing when he contradicted himself about dates. The eviction notice gave me 30 days. The countdown began, each day bringing new financial pressure. My car payment bounced. My phone service sent a disconnection warning. The walls were closing in, and Pal knew it. His attacks intensified with each passing day. Mrs. Chen knocked on my door one evening with a gift that changed everything. She'd been keeping a neighborhood watch journal for years, documenting suspicious activity. Her meticulous notes showed Pal at my mailbox for 3 months straight, always at mail delivery time. She'd written down dates, times, and descriptions. An unexpected witness had emerged from the most unlikely source. The following Sunday dinner exploded when I casually mentioned Pal's streaming schedule. He erupted, screaming about privacy and boundaries, his mask slipping completely. Mom and Dad exchanged glances as he ranted about how I was stalking him online, monitoring his life, trying to destroy his career. The more he talked, the more unhinged he sounded. After dinner, Pal cornered me in the hallway. He made an offer. He'd fix everything if I dropped Grandpa's power of attorney. All the financial problems would disappear. The credit issues would be resolved, but only if I gave him legal control over Grandpa's care. I kept my phone recording in my pocket as he outlined his extortion attempt. Mom pulled me aside before I left, her voice uncertain. She wanted to know how Pal knew so much about my finances, if we were truly estranged. Why did he have details about my credit cards, my car loan, my apartment lease? The questions hung in the air as I saw doubt creeping into her worldview. I discovered Pal had started intercepting my mail 2 weeks before Grandpa's hospitalization, during the chaos when I was focused on Grandpa's care. He'd been planning this for months, waiting for the perfect moment of vulnerability to strike. The timeline was damning when mapped out properly. His influence was shrinking though. Beyond our parents and a few gullible relatives, people were growing skeptical. My coworkers had started questioning the anonymous complaints. Neighbors noticed his suspicious behavior. The facade was cracking, but not fast enough to save my finances. Megan provided the smoking firearm. Screenshots of Pal doing identical revenge schemes to another ex-girlfriend. The same forged documents, the same mail theft, the same financial destruction. 3 victims, identical patterns. We had proof of serial behavior, documented across years. Jake called late one night, apologizing profusely. Pal had accidentally sent him an unedited screenshot while trying to fabricate more evidence. The metadata showed clear manipulation, timestamps that didn't match, fonts that were inconsistent. Jake wanted to help however he could, ashamed that he doubted me. Together, Jake and I started tracking Pal's movements and documenting his lies. We created a timeline showing how his stories contradicted each other, how his claims were impossible. Jake used his IT knowledge to analyze the edited messages, proving they were fabricated. Despite my rage, I refused to retaliate illegally. Every time I wanted to slash his tires or hack his accounts, I remembered Grandpa's words about integrity. The high ground was lonely, but it was mine. I wouldn't become like Pal, no matter how much he'd hurt me. The confrontation at my parents' house was calm and methodical. I listed Pal's lies one by one as he squirmed in his chair. Each contradiction, each impossibility, each piece of evidence. He tried to interrupt, to deflect, to gaslight, but I kept going. Mom's face grew paler with each revelation. Mrs. Chen's journal became crucial evidence. Her detailed notes corroborated every missing bill, every intercepted package. The dates aligned perfectly with my financial destruction. An elderly woman's dedication to neighborhood safety had accidentally documented months of mail fraud. Dad made a discovery that shook his faith in Pal. While looking for holiday decorations in the garage, he found boxes hidden behind old furniture. My mail, 3 months worth, stuffed into cardboard boxes. Bills, legal notices, financial statements, all addressed to me, all open, all hidden in his garage. Mom realized Pal's church attendance perfectly coincided with my work schedule. He'd claimed to find God, attending services religiously, but only when he knew I'd be at the hospital. The spiritual transformation was another manipulation, designed to make him look reformed while he stalked my routines. I assembled a team without meaning to. Megan, Jake, Mrs. Chen, and Tony, the mailman, all wanted to help. We coordinated our evidence, cross-referenced our timelines, built an airtight case. Not for court, I couldn't afford lawyers, but for the court of family opinion. Powell made a critical mistake. In a moment of frustration with Mom's questions, he admitted he taught me a lesson. He claimed I deserved it for taking Grandpa away, for thinking I was better than him. Mom's face crumbled as she realized she'd been enabling an abuser. Extended family members started reaching out with apologies. At our cousin's birthday party, Powell's lies had unraveled spectacularly when he couldn't keep his stories straight. Different relatives had been told different versions of events, and when they compared notes, nothing added up. Powell's options were shrinking rapidly. Our parents limited his access to their credit cards. They changed the garage door code. They stopped buying his groceries. Each small boundary felt like a victory, even as my own situation grew more desperate. Megan revealed the full extent of Powell's pattern. He'd done this to at least 3 women, her, another ex-girlfriend, and now me. Always after rejection, always targeting finances, always positioning himself as the victim. The behavior was pathological, repetitive, and escalating. I focused on protecting Grandpa while dealing with Powell. His care remained excellent, his finances secure behind legal protections. Whatever happened to me, Grandpa would be safe. That knowledge gave me strength during the darkest moments. The neighbors organized an informal mail watch after learning about Powell's scheme. They took turns monitoring the mailboxes, documenting any suspicious activity. Powell's ability to intercept mail vanished overnight as the community rallied against him. Delivery drivers started recognizing Powell from the warnings we distributed. His attempts to intercept packages failed repeatedly. One driver called me directly when Powell tried to claim a package addressed to me, pretending I'd asked him to pick it up. Dad caught Powell red-handed, trying to access a storage unit in the garage where I kept childhood items and important documents. The confrontation was ugly, with Powell claiming he was just looking for old video games. But Dad had seen him picking the lock, tools in hand. My workplace cleared me after I presented evidence of Powell's harassment campaign. Human Resources documented everything, recognizing the pattern of malicious complaints. My supervisor apologized for doubting me and offered flexibility with my schedule while I sorted out my finances. Bank security footage revealed Powell had attempted to access my accounts using a fake ID. The quality wasn't good enough for prosecution, but it was enough to show my family. The image of him at the teller window, pretending to be me, shattered their remaining illusions. 7 days until eviction created crushing pressure. Oh my gosh, Jake coming back to help after realizing Powell tricked him is crazy, bro. I can't believe that Dad actually found boxes of stolen mail hidden in the garage. I accelerated my plans, knowing time was running out. Every piece of evidence needed to be in place. Every ally needed to be ready. The final confrontation was approaching whether I was prepared or not. My parents watched Powell's old streams for the first time, horrified by what they found. Hours of him gloating about destroying me, laughing about my financial ruin, planning new ways to hurt me. The child they protected and enabled was revealed as something monstrous. The stakes crystallized in simple terms. I needed my parents to take responsibility and stop enabling Powell. Not for money, not for revenge, but for the truth. They had to see what they created through their favoritism and blind support. I handled their tears with compassion, but maintained firm boundaries. Yes, they'd failed as parents. Yes, they'd enabled an abuser. But wallowing in guilt wouldn't fix anything. They needed to act, to change, to stop the cycle of destruction. Extended family members started refusing Powell's requests for money. Word had spread about the mail scheme, the forged documents, the systematic destruction of my life. His support network crumbled as the truth spread through family channels. Multiple witnesses independently corroborated my version of events. Mrs. Chen's journal, Tony's postal records, Megan's screenshots, bank footage, all painted the same picture. The truth was emerging from too many sources to deny or dismiss. My parents agreed to therapy, recognizing their role in creating this situation, but Powell refused to participate, claiming therapy was a scam designed to blame men for everything. His refusal to engage with mental health services became another red flag they couldn't ignore. Powell tried emotional manipulation when other tactics failed. He threatened to hurt himself if Mom stopped buying his groceries, claiming he'd starve without her support. I helped her recognize the manipulation, teaching her the difference between genuine crisis and emotional blackmail. The next morning brought unexpected clarity when Dad's siblings called an emergency family meeting. My uncle revealed Powell had borrowed money from him years ago for a business opportunity that turned out to be online poker. My aunt shared similar stories of manipulation from Powell's teenage years. The pattern stretched back decades, each relative adding another piece to the puzzle. During Grandpa's weekly checkup at the care facility, he had one of his increasingly rare lucid moments. The doctor called me immediately, and I rushed over with my parents. Grandpa's eyes were clear as he gripped my hand and told everyone present about finding Powell, passed out hammered, while supposedly watching him. He described the hunger, the confusion, the fear when Powell would disappear for days. My mother sobbed as Grandpa confirmed every detail I'd been trying to tell them. That afternoon, I submitted my complete evidence package to the credit agencies. The representative reviewed Mrs. Chen's journal, the forged signatures, the mail theft documentation, and Powell's own streaming confessions. She initiated the dispute process, warning it would take months, but expressing optimism given the thorough documentation. Small victories felt monumental in my current state. Megan compiled her final evidence package, including screenshots of Powell, bragging to mutual friends about destroying her finances after their breakup. One message stood out where he'd written about teaching women lessons when they thought they were too good for him. The pattern was undeniable. Systematic financial revenge against any woman who rejected or challenged him. My parents held their own confrontation with Powell that evening. I wasn't present, but Mom called me afterward, her voice shaking. They'd formally banned him from their property until he sought mental health treatment. Dad had changed all the locks and installed security cameras. The enablement was finally ending, though the damage stretched deep. Pal's response came swiftly. He created fake social media profiles, spreading lies about me planting evidence. He claimed I'd hacked his streaming accounts, forged the screenshots, manipulated Grandpa during his confusion. The desperation reeked through every post, each accusation more unhinged than the last. But without my parents' support, his influence was crumbling. My landlord reviewed my situation and agreed to a payment plan, though I'd need to downsize to a studio apartment. The moving costs would drain my remaining savings, but keeping a roof over my head mattered more than space. I started packing immediately, each box a reminder of how much Pao had stolen from me. Jake's parents expressed concern when he told them about our situation. His mother worried about him getting pulled into family drama, while his father questioned whether someone from such a dysfunctional family was right for their son. Jake defended me initially, but the pressure was mounting. He showed up at my apartment looking exhausted. The conversation was brief but devastating. Jake needed space to think, time to process everything that had happened. He wasn't ending things, he insisted, just stepping back while I dealt with the chaos. I watched him leave, adding another loss to Pao's tally. The isolation felt complete. With my relationship in limbo and moving deadline approaching, I made a difficult decision. The small savings I protected would go towards securing Grandpa's long-term care, rather than fighting my eviction in court. I liquidated my retirement account, accepting the penalties, and set up a trust for Grandpa's future needs. Whatever happened to me, he would be protected. Pao learned about the trust fund through family gossip. He appeared at my apartment complex the next morning, pounding on my door and screaming about stolen inheritance. Security footage captured him kicking my door, demanding money that was rightfully his. The property manager called police, but Pao fled before they arrived. His fury escalated throughout the week. I received dozens of messages from fake numbers, each more threatening than the last. He accused me of stealing his future, destroying his life, turning everyone against him. The projection was staggering. Every crime he'd committed against me became my sin in his twisted narrative. The confrontation everyone feared came on a Thursday afternoon. I was visiting Grandpa when staff alerted me that Pao had arrived, demanding to see his grandfather. He'd brought documents he claimed superseded my power of attorney. Security kept him in the lobby while I gathered my paperwork and prepared for the showdown. I walked into the lobby to find Pao, red-faced and sweating, waving papers at the security guard. He spun toward me, his eyes wild with desperation. I calmly presented my valid power of attorney documents to the facility administrator while Pao ranted about conspiracies and theft. His papers were obviously forged, different fonts, mismatched dates, amateur work compared to his previous attempts. The administrator reviewed both sets of documents and confirmed mine were the only valid ones on file. Pao's composure shattered completely. He lunged toward me, but security intervened. As they escorted him out, he screamed threats about knowing people who would make me pay. The desperation in his voice revealed more than he intended. That evening, Megan arrived at my new studio apartment with her brother Sebastian, a lawyer who'd been following our situation. He'd reviewed the evidence and offered pro bono assistance, seeing parallels to his sister's experience. We spent hours discussing options, weighing the benefits of pressing charges versus letting Pao face natural consequences. The decision became clear when Sebastian discovered something in Pao's streaming history. Hidden in his Discord server were messages about cryptocurrency gambling, massive losses, and increasingly desperate attempts to win back money. The amounts were staggering, far more than he could have afforded even with his death from Grandpa. He owed dangerous people serious money. I faced a choice that would define who I was. I could press charges, send Pao to jail, and feel vindicated. Or I could let his own choices catch up with him. Sebastian showed me screenshots from Pao's Discord where creditors were already threatening him, looking for him, growing impatient with his excuses. The decision felt heavy, but clear. I gathered the screenshots of creditor threats from Pao's Discord and did something that would seal his fate. I forwarded his current location and daily patterns to the contact information visible in those threatening messages. No police, no courts, just the natural consequences of his gambling addiction finding him. Within hours, Pao's social media went dark. His streaming schedule, religious as clockwork for years, suddenly stopped. Mom called me panicking. Pao had shown up at their house at 3 a.m., throwing clothes into garbage bags and begging for money. He claimed people were after him, that I'd sent killers, that he needed to leave town immediately. My parents refused to give him money or shelter. The boundaries held firm even as Pao wept and begged. He left before dawn, his Honda packed with whatever he could carry. The security cameras captured his final departure, a broken man fleeing consequences he'd created himself. Mom called me crying after he left, asking if I'd really sent dangerous people after him. I explained calmly that I'd simply forwarded information about his location to people he already owed money. His gambling debts were his own creation, the threats his own consequence. She struggled to process this, but Dad understood immediately. Pao had finally faced something he couldn't manipulate away. The next few days brought rapid changes. Without Pao's constant harassment, I could focus on rebuilding. Credit agencies began processing my disputes. My supervisor noted my improved performance without the daily disruptions. Even moving into the smaller apartment felt like progress rather than defeat. My parents began their own journey of understanding. They started therapy, confronting years of enabling behavior and favoritism. Dad admitted he'd always known something was wrong with Pao, but had hoped tough love would fix it. Mom struggled with guilt over choosing her son over truth for so long. Their therapist helped them understand that protecting Pao had ultimately hurt everyone, including him. Extended family members shared relief at Pao's departure. Stories emerged from cousins about money he'd borrowed and never repaid, lies he'd told to get sympathy and cash. The full extent of his manipulation network became clear only after he fled. Everyone had a Pao story, each one following the same pattern. I focused on practical recovery. The studio apartment was small, but mine. I established new routines, new mail security, new boundaries. Grandpa's care remained excellent, his trust fund secure. I visited him daily, bringing photos and stories. On good days, he recognized me and smiled. On bad days, I held his hand anyway. My finances slowly stabilized. The credit disputes showed progress, collections calls decreased as documentation proved the debts weren't mine. Each small victory, a removed collection, a corrected report, felt monumental. Megan celebrated each win with me, understanding the long road to recovery. Work relationships healed as colleagues realized the truth about Pow's harassment campaign. People who'd received strange calls about my supposed substance problem apologized for doubting me. My supervisor advocated for a small raise, recognizing I'd maintained performance despite personal crisis. Normal life crept back in small doses. 3 weeks after Pow fled, I received a final message from an unknown number. So she actually gave Pow's location to those dangerous people he owed money to? I wonder if she thought about what might really happen when those creditors found him. It's interesting how his parents finally held their boundaries when he showed up at 3 a.m. begging for help. Though I'm curious about where he actually went after packing up that Honda. He blamed me for ruining his life, claimed I destroyed his future, promised this wasn't over, but the threat felt hollow from someone hiding from his own choices. I documented the message and blocked the number, refusing to engage with his narrative. I changed every password, upgraded all security, installed cameras at my new apartment. Not from fear, but from wisdom. Pow might return someday, might try again, might escalate, but I wouldn't live in fear. I'd live prepared, protected, and free from his influence. The hardest part was accepting the losses. My relationship with Jake remained in limbo. My savings were gone, my credit would take years to fully recover. But I'd kept my integrity, protected Grandpa, and broken the cycle of enabling that had created Pow. The victory came with costs I'd be paying for years. Megan started a private Facebook group for Pow's victims. 3 women joined immediately, sharing their stories of financial destruction and recovery. We created resources, warning signs, and support networks. If Pow tried his schemes elsewhere, future targets would have a warning. The group became about healing and prevention rather than revenge. Mom sent me photos of their redecorated living room. Without Pow's constant presence and drama, they'd begun reclaiming their space. Dad had turned Pow's former gaming den into a workshop. They looked happier, lighter, finally free to be themselves without managing Pow's moods and manipulation. 6 months after Pow fled, Jake reached out. He'd spent time in therapy processing everything, understanding how toxic family dynamics had affected our relationship. He wanted to try again, but slowly, with boundaries and communication. We met for coffee, then dinner, rebuilding trust one conversation at a time. The new normal settled into place. Weekly dinners with my parents, who'd become different people without Pow's influence. Daily visits with Grandpa, sharing quiet moments in the sunshine. Slow reconciliation with Jake, built on honesty rather than assumptions. Small apartment but stable life, hard-won peace after chaos. Word reached me through family networks that Pow had surfaced in another state, running similar scams on new victims. But Megan's Facebook group had expanded, creating warnings that spread faster than his lies. Women shared his photo, his tactics, his patterns. Each new target received warnings before he could destroy them. I tended a small balcony garden in my studio apartment, finding peace in nurturing life after so much destruction. Herbs and flowers thrived in containers, proof that beautiful things could grow in small spaces. The morning ritual of watering and pruning became meditation, grounding me in the present rather than the painful past. Grandpa's good days grew rarer, but I treasured each one. We'd sit in the facility's garden while he told stories from his railroad days. Sometimes he called me by my mother's name. Sometimes he didn't recognize me at all, but he was safe, comfortable, and cared for. The trust fund ensured he'd never face neglect again. My parents sent photos from their first real vacation in years. Without Pow's constant financial drain and emotional manipulation, they'd saved enough for a modest trip. They looked younger in those pictures, rediscovering who they were as a couple. The guilt had faded into acceptance and growth. I received notice that Pow had been arrested in another state for check fraud. Megan forwarded the news article. He'd tried his old schemes but picked the wrong target. The woman had seen warnings in our Facebook group and gathered evidence from day one. His luck had finally run out, consequences catching up despite his flight. The recovery was real but incomplete. Credit scores slowly climbed, relationships carefully rebuilt, trust cautiously extended, but some scars would always remain, reminders of how much damage one person could inflict when enabled by family systems. I carried those lessons forward, boundaries forged in painful experience. Sitting in my small garden as spring arrived, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, contentment. Not happiness exactly, but peace with where life had led. Grandpa was safe, my parents were healing, Pow was gone. I'd lost much but kept what mattered most. Integrity, family who finally saw truth, and hard-won wisdom about standing firm against manipulation. The phone rang occasionally from unknown numbers I never answered. Messages arrived from fake profiles I immediately blocked. Pow's presence lingered like smoke, but without substance or power. He was someone else's problem now. His schemes exposed before they could take root. The cycle was broken, even if the breaking had cost everything. I smiled, watering my tiny garden in the golden evening light. Tomorrow would bring Grandpa visits, dinner with parents still learning to be themselves, maybe coffee with Jake if we both felt ready. Simple moments that Pow had tried to steal but couldn't destroy. Life rebuilt on truth was smaller, but stronger than the lies that had nearly consumed us all. Thanks all for watching the video in full. Much love, you guys all appreciate it.